Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sacred Rainbow Warrior, the channel of divine guidance. I am a guide for animal spirit wisdom and spiritual guidance. And my logo is, if you hadn't noticed, is the has the stag horns, and the stag is actually about divine guidance. And I'm speaking words of wisdom. Let it be, let it be. Today, I am talking about the broken soul. When I used to work in the when I say work, when I was healing myself through the mental health arena, let's say, instead of the spiritual arena. Oh, my camera's out of focus. There we go, back in focus. Focus now, everyone. Listen. So, in the mental health arena, there's a lot of people that used to, mainly justice warriors, that used to say, "You're not broken. You're not broken. You're not broken." Yes, you are. Sorry, you're broken. Let me tell you how that happens. So, first I have to tell you a story in order to get to in order to get to that. So, on my healing journey, when I spoke about this in a previous video, I started working with plant medicine, and I noticed that in the spiritual arena, the spiritual tribe compared to the mental health tribe, they're completely two different tribes, but they are linked. And within any tribe, there are toxicities, and the toxicities I found in the spiritual tribe where there are a lot of charlatans, and charlatans are dangerous because they like to steal. And when I ejected myself from the spiritual community and I started working privately with my now partner, who at the time was just a woman I met in a caravan in the middle of the countryside. I just thought she was some crazy English woman living in a foreign country. It was crazy. But we turned out to be get on really well and best friends, and realized we had a devoted, harmonious journey, and realized we were twin flames. So I didn't even know that existed, nor did I even believe it until it actually happened. And you can catch out our other channel where we work together called Prophecy Walkers. Anyway, I will continue. So the reason I say that is when I met her, we started working really deeply on ourselves to heal everything between man and woman. And it was tremendous, tremendous fun and tremendously scary at the same time. And I exposed the patriarchy, the toxic masculine in me, and eventually we started working on the matriarchy because exposing the patriarchy is pretty dark and pretty nasty, and it takes a few years. And a matriarchy is very invisible and doesn't like to show its face. And when we were in year one, my partner Hazel found this woman in Holland. She was actually the director of Europe for soul retrievals. And I was like, what is a soul retrieval? And she went to see her, and there's this book online. I'm going to put a picture of it somewhere. I'll put it here. And I recommend you read it. It's a very interesting read, but it's about retrieving your soul. And I did a deep dive into it. And when she booked her lesson, I was like, "Oh, how did it go, Hazel?" And she told me, and I was like, "Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm going to book mine." And I received back 5 pieces of my soul. And they were so big that I'm still actually integrating them now. They're so big. But when you go to see a professional like that, they actually use animals, spirit animals, and sometimes, and you can read the book. The book's really cool. And it teaches you in the book how to integrate these soul retrieval pieces that come back to you, because you can't just say, "Hey, soul, come back to me. You're mine, come back." There's like this cleansing, this purification of uh, uncovering the injustice which caused your soul to leave in the first place. Like, for example, you can lose a piece of your soul, for example, through bullying, any form of abuse, or jealousy. Jealousy is a very common one. I've had many soul pieces stolen through jealousy. And there are soul pieces in all the three collected three lines of consciousness. And when I talk about three lines of consciousness, is me, you, and we. One, two, three, and three, two, one. And there are collective soul pieces, like, for example, I did a collective soul retrieval for humanity to retrieve the lost will our lost will of freedom of will because back during the original sin, the Garden of Eden, there was the manipulation of our DNA, which caused us to kind of give away our freedom of will, and to make choices to lean in and follow the word of love instead of the word of fear. And it works between two of you as well. And but mostly, it's most importantly always to begin with the one. And what I have learned is that when the soul pieces are missing, it's like a cracked mirror. You look into the mirror and it may look like you, but it's quite distorted. And this is how the hijacking of the ego shows the shadows of who we are. And I use the animals to decode this. That's why it's such profound wisdom. And it's so big, I'm having to share bits through my podcast, the He Lives podcast, where each week I share the wisdom of an animal and I break it down to understand how that part of that animal helps us heal that part within us because all the animals are within us. And I recently did one on jealousy. And jealousy is a really, really powerful medicine, and it's very dark distortion. It's very feminine, actually, very matriarch. The smear campaign, and it was actually one of the first animals I worked with on my healing journey. And I was took some mushrooms in my bedroom, and I was lying on my bed, and I can see spirit animals when I journey. And this giant mass, luckily I'm not scared of them. I find them extremely beautiful, actually. This giant wasp flew into my room. It was like this big. And it was like, "Zzz," and it landed on my chest and it said, ring a ding ding, let the sting in. I was like, whoa, what is this? And I was staying with my mum at the time. I moved back home unconsciously to heal the mother wound. And I speak about this on my podcast, but it's such fascinating. I love telling this story because it's just so incredible what happened. So this wasp spirit landed on me, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" I didn't even know that the wasp at that time, shadow represents jealousy. And at the time, I'd had this shoulder. I couldn't lift my shoulder. I tore the labrum in a snowboarding accident. I fell on it a couple of times and did all this therapy around it, but nothing could heal it. And I'd started delving into the healing, the potentials of healing through plant medicine, through my own wisdom, and through animals. I've been adamant on it ever since I started my plant medicine journey, because in my first ever plant medicine journey with ayahuasca, I was introduced to my heart, which is the lion heart. And the medicine that came through the wasp was it went it landed straight on my heart, and it showed me a vision that was linked to my injury in my arm. Like, it was really bothering me. I was like, please, ancestors, please, spirit, please, can you help me heal this? And it took several months for the healing to arrive because it's really deep. You have to be ready to deal with the wasp. It's very deep, deep and divine. And I got this vision of my cousin who she's about 40 years older than me. I haven't spoken to her in decades, but it showed me the vision of when I was about 4 or 5. She took me to this outdoor swimming pool. There was no one about. It was middle of summer, and she had this jealousy towards my mother. And because I was in between her and my mother, she had passed it on to me on my feminine side, my left side. And it was this jealousy that she had of having the son that she always wanted, because she had a daughter and she didn't have a son. So she was jealous of my mother, and she was always giving my mum a lot of shit. Anyway, it told me I had this rose quartz on my head, above my head, and it said, take the rose quartz and put it on your heart. And as soon as I did that, I felt all of the pain and the inflammation come out of my arm and into the stone. It said, go put it in some water. And I lifted off the stone, and all of a sudden I could lift my arm. It was a freaking miracle. And So I got up and I went into the kitchen. My mum was in there, and I put it in the water, and I said, don't touch this for at least a 24 hours. And she's like, why? I was like, what? I was like, how did uh cousin, I'm not going to say her name, how did a cousin treat you? And she was like, oh yeah, she was really jealous of me, blah blah blah. I said, it's really interesting. Just had this journey, and a wasp landed on me and was teaching me about this spirit, and I just took it out and put it in this stone. And as I said that, and this is, bearing in mind, this was mid-November, which is the middle of winter. You don't get bees or wasps at this time. Um, a wasp flew into the kitchen and into the light and went and died in the light. It was incredible. And me and my mum just went like that. It was incredible. And so that day I received and healed back a part of my soul that had been taken. And these these distortions. So distortion is a bearing in mind what I'm saying about the cracked mirror, about how it being broken, how we're broken, because the soul is the mirror. It's the mirror, how we mirror ourselves back to each other. And the easiest way to do that is through the opposite sex, through love. That's why I have live in divine union with my partner. Is when you don't have a clear mirror, all you see are the distortions and the shadows. And so my cousin, when she was jealous of my mother was mirroring back her admiration, because the purity of jealousy is actually admiration and influence. And that's why a lot of people will become jealous of people who are in a position of power, because they hold a power of influence. But it's not the power over, it's the power of love. Love isn't a power over, it's just power, it's pure power. And this level of distortion that causes us to look at ourselves through someone else. If you're looking through the eyes of distortion, like through the eyes of jealousy, it will show you back a distortion of yourself. And so that's when this projection comes between women, which is really, stinging like the wasp, which is really painful and harmful. And so people fear that, and this is why people fear certain animals. For example, I know a lot of people, especially women, who are scared of wasps, and that's because they're scared of their own influence, they're scared of their own influence of love, and so that comes out as jealousy. Do you understand how it works? Right. So I've got a lot of wisdom to share. That's why I speak fast to get it out. But I'll go a bit slower because this is important. The energy of the soul, where it is split, pieces of our soul are taken, so light, and they're replaced with darkness. Now, I use the example of something that happened a couple of days. I went to a cafe and I overheard this guy walking down the street with his mate, and his mate goes to him, mate, the way you're behaving sounds like you got ADHD. And his mate goes, oh no. He bought that lie, right? And these are the distortions and the lies that we buy. A lot of people believe they have ADHD, but they don't, because it is a lie. It's just an abbreviation, a symptom of toxic shame avoidance. Everything leads back to that. Everything leads back to narcissism, because narcissism is essentially the poster child for the matrix, and all of its roots are all these labels that we're given, because everything comes back to avoiding shame. Because when you look at your shame, it is healed, and everything has its own unique resonance, and if it's not looked at, it creates inflammation, like in my shoulder, and that can lead to diseases such as anything, you name it. And that means that anything can be cured if you're willing to look at it, if you're willing to heal. But instead, we believe in the lies of drugs, right? And I can't even go down that route. That's just a whole nother story, pharmaceuticals and drugs. It's just ridiculous, right? Turning, polluting and perverting our medicines into drugs, anything that is man-made is a drug, anything that is natural is medicine. It's just like, I'm not going to go into it because I feel really passionate about that. I'm going to go on forever. So, soul retrievals are a way of calling back that part of light that has been stolen. And when it's stolen, people pervert it, or it's stored by your ancestors somewhere to keep it safe. Like, for example, I got my head kicked in. I spoke about that in the previous I spoke about that in the previous episode, and I lost a part of my soul that day. And it's the same when it happens through grieving, right? Because we're all one. When we lose a partner, a loved one, whoever that may be in our lives, we feel like a part of us has died because it has. A part of our soul has died because we are all one. And because we're all one, we share a collective soul. I know this is really profound. I'm glad you agree. And we, when we go through the grieving process, which is an incredible portal of love, if we don't allow that grieving to take place, that part of the soul, that part of that person who left us, if we don't grieve, then a piece of darkness takes its place, and that can be anything. That can be anything, and that can also lead to disease. So it's really important to grieve because then light comes in its place, and you receive that love from that part that has died. And it can happen with any piece of soul that we lose. Like when I got my head kicked in, like I said, I lost part of my soul, and I went on a journey to reclaim that. And when I went on my soul retrieval, one of those parts of my soul was what I received back, but it took me years to integrate it. And it wasn't just from this lifetime; it was akashic as well, and it had been stored in the light. But sometimes pieces are stolen and they're held by people. And so when I learned about this soul retrieval process, again, you should check out the book, it's amazing. Um, I started working with Hazel, and we weren't allowed to tell each other what our soul pieces were because if you tell someone what it is, they can steal it from you or you can give it away, because it's not just about stealing, it's about giving away. But there are so many soul pieces because the soul is infinite. And so the whole healing process of ascension and divinity and divine union is healing yourself so that those parts of your DNA and your soul can come back to you. And the more brightly you shine, the more you behave like a magnet to your soul, and it gets like and they come back. But it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of healing and a lot of integration. And these soul pieces are so valuable when you realize it's so divine. They mean so much to us, and they come with gifts. And when we lose that piece of our soul, we lose the memory associated to it, and so we don't even know that it's missing. And so when it comes back, you're like, oh, I remember this part of myself. And like there's this grief comes in, start crying, and it's like, oh my God, and that's integration when you receive it back and you're like, oh wow, I don't ever want to let go of this again. But we live in such a society that everything is being taken from us through every form of um fear you can imagine. Everything is created in this society, in the matrix. Is everything is created to empower separation. And what is separation? It's the pulling apart of the soul. And this is what we're coming to the end of now, where the divine, if you know the divine plan of God. And I know this because he told me, she told me, it told me, it's to pull everything apart so it can be exposed between the light and the dark. And when it's elastic and when it's exposed enough, it's like you can see everything and heal everything. And then bang, divine union come together. And there's a bang. This bang is the alchemy of light. And divine union is the coming together of the feminine and the masculine outside and within. And this is why there's so much trouble in people who have chosen to change their sex. It's a distortion of enslavement and martyrdom. Because and it's very hidden within the matriarchy. I'll do a video on that because I do most of my stuff on the toxic patriarchy, and I've been healing that in me. I probably healed most of it. Yeah. But the matriarchy is very hidden, and the one of the things about the matriarchy is there are certain chakras which are linked to feminine and masculine energy. Like the solar plexus is very much a masculine energy, the sun, but the sacral chakra, which is about the feminine waters and creation, is very much a feminine energy. And hidden in the shadow of the sacral chakra is martyrdom. And you can see this in people who refuse to see the truth of their choices. And the distortion of matriarchy, the toxic matriarchy, is guilt and self-righteousness through martyrdom. And guilt and self-righteousness is only expressed through the distortion of not taking responsibility for really poor choices. Can you imagine if you are brainwashed to have an operation to change your sex based on how you felt in that moment? Similar, I don't mean to degrade it, but just to use another example, similar to getting a tattoo when you're younger, and then when you grow up, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. You can't really do that when you've had an operation to change your sex, right? So that person becomes a martyr and doubles down on their choice and becomes extremely toxic and self-righteous. And this is the problem that we are facing, is these energies that people are choosing for are really toxic. And I feel really bad for these people. I feel really a lot of sadness and at the injustice that they have been lied to. I don't blame the people that have chosen to do that. They have been misled. They've been misled by the toxic patriarchy and its hidden toxic matriarchy. And it isn't about our parents. It's about the hidden energies that are being fed to us, the manipulation through so many different avenues. But the latest one of how they're trying to kill us is through electromagnetic radiation. And I was just watching it on Instagram about a woman who works for the UN who's exposing this, and everybody's just accepting it. They're trying to kill us. And this is a collective wound that is repeating itself through karma, the collective wound of World War. We are in World War III, but this time it's hidden and people don't even realize it. Because that karmic wound of war hasn't been broken, this time it's a silent war and it's happening behind the scenes. And instead of gassing us this time, they are burning us. And if you look at the word Holocaust, the etymology behind the meaning, it means burnt offering. It's an offering through fire. They are trying to burn us through radiation this time. And trust me, it's coming. And a lot of people are unfortunately going to suffer. So I'll be talking more about that in the future, but I wanted to really delve into the stuff that I'm really passionate about, and the being broken, the broken mirror and the soul and the distortions, healing that through animal wisdom. I really suggest you follow my He Lives podcast, because I'm gonna really go deep, and I'm getting better and better at channeling these energies of the animals. And I'm going to do one about the snake, because we're in the year of the snake, and the snake is all about in its shadow is about enslavement through the manipulation of our DNA. It's so profound. It's so profound, and I can't just do one podcast on the snake. It's going to take years, and I'm putting together books and stuff about it. But it's so profound. Um, so really tune in to whether you're standing in love or standing in fear. If you're a martyr and you're standing, in self-righteousness, going, oh, blah, 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 because of some poor choices you make, turn around now. Turn around now before it's too late. You can heal anything. You just need to choose and look inside. Stop listening to everyone else and take your own journey. That's what I did. Take yourself out of the tribe, the toxic tribe, and take your own journey. Good luck.